So this segment is a little different than our other segments in the conference. We have 5 amazing speakers here to talk to you all about how AI will impact the creative industry. So that includes product design, image generation, and audio generation, and much more. Each speaker comes from diverse backgrounds, and since this segment is about art, we wanted them to be able to showcase their work. Each speaker will present and we'll leave time for audience Q&A after each session, and then we'll all come together for a brief roundtable discussion. So our first speaker is Kelly Hurlburt, Senior Staff Experience Designer at Adobe Firefly. So take it away, Kelly.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'm gonna try and stand to the side. I'm a little short for these podiums. But like Priya said, my name is Kelly. I'm a senior staff designer at Adobe, based in Brooklyn, outside of work. I like to travel, take photos, work on all the grandma crafts. But that's already too much about me. Let's talk about Adobe Firefly. If you haven't been introduced, Adobe Firefly is Adobe's image generation model. And I'm gonna hop really quickly into a brief demo of how it works. So we're here on the firefly.adobe.com website, where you can see kind of a preview of all the different AI technology that we're working on. But I'm going to hop into text to image. So right away, we have a bunch of examples from the community here to give you some inspiration of what you might generate with those prompts, to give you kind of a jump start of how you can work with this tool. But let's go ahead and type our own prompt. So I don't know, like frogs dancing. And imagine the worst thing in the world is typing when people are watching. With mushrooms. Okay, and you can see that I'm typing in English, but you can also prompt in over 200 different languages. And you're able to prompt in a way that matches natural language, the way that you would kind of speak normally as a human being in conversations. So there we go. We got some really cute images here, but we also have a lot more options on the right to refine. So right now, this is kind of an illustration. Maybe we want this to be more of a photo. Could change the aspect ratio. Can also choose some different style tags. So if I wanted this to be hyper-realistic, for example, I could do that. I can change things like the color, the lighting, composition. Golden hours is a super popular one. I can also adjust the specific photo settings. So if I wanted this to be, a wide shot or have really low depth of field, I can do things like that and click generate. So these options might not seem like super revolutionary, but if you think back to where generative AI was about a year ago when we first released Firefly, it was very much a developer's game, right? Like in order to generate, you need to code or to create these like really long paragraphs that you have no idea what you're talking about. It was like you had to learn an entirely new language to create images. And so we were kind of the first people to really put like a friendly UI on this and allow you to prompt in ways that are more human without having to learn a prompt language. So we've got these amazing frogs looking super photorealistic, but even with these kind of guided options here on the right, it can be hard to capture sort of the essence of a style in words. Sometimes really the best way of doing that is just using another picture. So we can do that here with style references. I'll go ahead and upload maybe an example of some pottery that I worked on. Click generate, and right now it's going to ask you just to verify that this is your own work or work that you have the rights to. So we're not here to steal people's styles, like be cool. This is kind of a random example with pottery, obviously, but something that I think is fun is to just combine 2 totally different things so you get really serendipitous results. I think one of the great things about AI is the ability to use it for inspiration and to come up with things that you might not naturally have thought of. So you can see it's kind of capturing the lighting of my original photo. Even these like frogs and the toadstools got the little like speckle from the glaze I was using in the pottery. And this is looking pretty cool. Of course, this is a really silly example. Obviously, I don't know how often we need to make frogs that are dancing in the forest, but we are working on really practical use cases at Adobe as well. So we're partnering with enterprises to allow them to train custom models so that they can generate product shots, marketing, stuff with their own intellectual property. And so this is looking all right, but I do want to make some changes. But if we're trying to make those changes just directly in the prompt, I'm going to get an entirely new image. And I want to use this image as the base and just make a few adjustments. So I'll go ahead and open, let's say this one, in Generative Fill. And Generative Fill makes it really easy to just insert and remove objects from your image. So If I felt like this was, one too many mushrooms, I could go ahead really quickly, brush over this mushroom, click remove. It's going to take in the context of the surrounding image, all of this sort of around the mask, and generate a fill for this space that should fit in right with the image. So there you go. Immediately removed instantly. I get a few different options of how it could be removed. They mostly look the same. We'll go ahead and keep that. We can also insert objects as well. So same sort of deal. I can just really quickly brush over sort of the general area that I'm going for. Again, we'll just stay still. I'm going to add a top hat to this frog. And again, it's using that sort of surrounding context. So the thing that it's generated is going to sort of fit seamlessly into the image as if it was always there. So we got those fun different top hat options. So you're seeing this in the context of the Firefly website, but a big part of the sort of our strategy at Adobe is making sure that we're integrating these directly into the creative tools that creators are already working in. So you can do the same generative fill stuff like insert, like remove directly in Photoshop as well. So I'll hop back into this presentation. And a bit more detail about Adobe Firefly. What's unique about Firefly is the fact that we have designed this to be commercially safe. So we're not scraping the web to train on the whole internet corpus of images. We're training specifically on Adobe stock that we have the rights to, and also open source images. So you're totally safe to use this commercially. There's no sort of risk of copyright infringement. And we're also paying the stock contributors. So if you contribute to Adobe stock and you sell your images on our platform and we're using them to train, we're providing you some sort of compensation for the use in our data set. Another huge aspect that we're focusing on, of course, is also just transparency in AI. Obviously, this technology makes it really easy to do things like deepfakes or just make content that sort of manipulates narratives and things like that. And so while we can't totally prevent bad actors from being bad actors, what we can do is enable good actors to show off that they are in fact good actors and be transparent about their work. So anything that you create and download in Adobe Firefly is going to have content credentials attached. That's essentially like metadata that's attached to the file, and it just flags it as having been created with AI. And you can check that on the Content Authenticity Verify website. That's a coalition of a bunch of different companies, including Global and New York Times, that are all working together to develop sort of a standard of how we can label this content. And we're not just working on image technology. Obviously, Adobe Creative Cloud has a range of tools across creative disciplines. So we're doing research across domains, so across image, across vector, video, audio, you name it. A lot of this stuff is still kind of under wraps, so I can't show it to you today. But I did also want to do a brief demo of some of the stuff that we've been working on with Vector. So go ahead and jump into the public beta version of Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator is where you would do vector illustration. And let's say that I've been working on this postcard for San Francisco, and I'm a decent illustrator. I can make some stuff, but I really want to add like a cable car in this section, and I just have no idea how to get started. Just like text to image, I can go ahead and use a text prompt. Let's say trolley car. Click generate. Just like our image model, this is trained on stock content, so you're totally safe to use this stuff. And in just a few seconds, you have these vector illustrations of trolleys. This is beta, obviously, so we have a bit more work to do, but this is a real vector object, right? This is not a static image. I can go in, let me get the right selection tool. I could go in, I can totally move this around, adjust these points. I could recolor it. This is a truly editable vector. This is looking all right, but I also want it to match the style of my artwork a bit better. So we're going to do this again, but this time we're going to pick styles from a reference or match the active artboard. And that's going to take the style of this, similar to what we did with the reference image earlier, and generate the trolley again, but this time in the style of my own vector work. And again, a lot of our intent is to give you a good place to start with, a nice jumping off point that you can then take further and refine and really make your own. It looks like it took over the background, but that's all right. So here, stuff's starting to look a bit more in the style, definitely a lot more in the color palette of my work. So I'll go ahead and maybe add this one in to our postcard. And all my layers are messed up, but you can imagine that's there. Cool. So let's say this is overall looking really good, but I'm not too sold on these colors. It's maybe like a little more muted that I'm going for. So I want to try out some different color palettes, but to do that manually would be like a nightmare. I have to select every single one of these like individual objects and like pick from infinite colors on a color wheel. But with generative AI, again, we have like a much nicer solution to get some good jumping off points. So if I go into generative recolor, again, using a text prompt, I can get some examples of different color palettes to work from. And I can use like pretty vague terms, right? Like if I want something brighter, I could say sunny day, for example. And this is going to recolor my vector artwork. You can see I have some different color palettes that I can now play around from. So this is public beta right now. Again, we have a lot of cool stuff coming soon, but this is what I'm actually able to show you today. I did also want to talk really briefly just about the role of AI in creativity. If you think about creative work today, there's a ton of people with really cool, great ideas with no technical skill to execute them whatsoever. And there's a very small pool of people who can actually execute creative work. I know I work at Adobe, but I'm not shy to say that Adobe Photoshop and like Illustrator are actually hard to use. Like it takes a lot of time and money and investment to really get good at craft. And for a really long time, I think creativity and craft have been synonymous, but real meaningful creative work comes from is that intersection of a good idea and the ability to execute it. If you're just executing and don't get to be involved in the idea itself, like that's not particularly fulfilling work to be a part of. And so what I think AI enables is just a much greater intersection of idea and execution. So not only does AI sort of make different workflows easier, sort of lower that barrier of entry to be able to execute and really expand that pool of people who are ever able to make creative work. It also expands creative work for creative professionals. Like you might be really great at illustration, but would never attempt to do animation because it always seemed too hard or too scary. And so AI can not just be something that enables people who aren't creative professionals, but also that augments the skills of creative professionals as well. And it also removes some of that tedious time. So the time you're spent doing work is less on execution and more on that really, valuable, rich work of figuring out the right idea. With that, I'll leave you with this quick little image. It's my favorite bug of all time. For a while, we were doing some post-processing on human faces, but our human detection was like way too liberal in identifying all these animals as human, putting these horrible human faces on it. And we just got these grotesque characters, and I'm honestly a little sad that we fixed it. I'll pass it along to our next guest.
So our next speaker is Adil Islam, product lead at Stability AI. You probably heard him earlier. He was on one of our other panels. So welcome, Adil.
And hear me okay? All right. I'm going to try to be a little bit interactive here. Ooh, boy. Okay. We can get started. So Stability. Were a lot of you here earlier when you raise your hand if you heard me talk before? Sorry about that. So look, there's one theme here that I mentioned before, which is Stability is building the foundation for activating humanity's potential. Let's dig in a little bit deeper. I'm at MIT, and I believe MIT has a lot of people that are builders, people that are going to make, possibly the most valuable companies of the future. Definitely right now is the time to start building. And I would suggest that you try building with Stability. We're not building applications, right? We're building models and we're building APIs in case you don't want to host those models yourselves. And I'm going to talk you through some of these. I'm going to show you a little bit of, let me make this full screen in the slideshow. Even better. So yeah, I'm going to not go through each one of the models per se, but I will show you a couple of the things that you could do. I'm going to show you how you can generate images of this quality within 10 seconds thanks to Stable Diffusion 3. and you should be able to generate, upscale, edit, and control the content of those images in 1 megapixel or 4K, 8K. You should be able to upscale something miserable into something beautiful. You should be able to control something from one type of image or even a sketch into something beautiful. You should be able to turn those images into videos. You should be able to turn those videos into 3D. Yeah, let's just do some interactive demos, actually. I don't know why I'm showing a PowerPoint slide. Those are going to go away in 2 years, if you remember. So I'll start by playing some music. I can't control the volume, so if it's too loud, just tell me it is too loud. Maybe a little bit lower. And I just wanted to play some background music for a quick video that I'll show with you. 40-second video. Yeah, so what I'm actually showing you is stable image services. The API services for right now just generate anything, including text, in your generation. And that's Stable Diffusion 3, by the way, that's capable of doing that in any style. As a builder, you can choose. But this is the upscale part. This is actually really exciting for me because you can just take some piece of crap image and turn it into like photorealism within less than 30 seconds. You can, with a word, change the content of an image, not without even masking, right? So, and then you can control the output into any style using control nets, if you're familiar with Stable Diffusion stuff. So this is just a quick video I wanted to share, and I'll leave the music running, actually. Let's see what happens. All right, okay, here's something cool. Give me an animal. A bear, okay. Bear, is that a bear? Where is the bear? In space. A bear in space. Should we get a photograph of a bear in space? All right, let's change the bear into a dog. Oh, 2 dogs. In space, in a forest. I like to do the forest thing. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so you saw that was almost instantaneous. That's because this particular app is using a version of SDXL. SDXL is our current most popular model. SD3 is going to be pretty popular. What I'm going to do next is turn that into a 3D model. I had some trouble with Colab earlier today, so if it doesn't work, we'll just move on. Let's see. I'm going to just remove the background. It should take a second or two, and then I'm going to turn that into a 3D object. Okay? So we got a 3D object in a couple of seconds. And that, if you're building a video game or if you've ever done any kind of 3D work, you can see that's kind of horrifyingly good and fast. But like, that wasn't a really good quality image, was it? So let's start. Oh, this is stable video, by the way. This is an application that we just put together, just to give an example of what you could do with our video stuff. So a dog in the forest is what we had, right? I'll choose a style as well, cinematic style, and we'll generate an image using this. While we're waiting for the image to generate, you can see a couple of these videos. Some calm before here we go. Okay, so these are slightly higher quality images, I would say. And you can just generate a video out of it. And while we're generating videos, we could take a look at some of these very interesting videos that people have been making. The fact is, video generation should be guided by, I like that one. It should be guided by images, right? And you should be able to control what you want to generate. And that's our kind of philosophy in general. This is Stable Video Diffusion 1.1. But look, I do not want you to get distracted by these beautiful UIs because you're builders here. And these UIs are for people who want to consume. But I believe there's people in this room who are going to create some of the most powerful applications of the future. And that's why I would love for you to check out this Colab. Hit me up, and I'll give you access, right? You can essentially do pretty much anything with these. This is a portrait-centric. There's an anime-centric one. This one generates images, like 4 images in a second. This one generates extremely high quality, like 8K images. This one's really fun. So like take your children's drawings and turn it into something beautiful. We've got a lot of interesting things. You can just talk to your images with this one. These are all different models. And I'm going to just leave you with this. Actually, I'll maybe leave you with this. Please ask me some questions, or if you want, we could just go back and make some more images. We've got 14 seconds left. I'll take one question.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you so
that
much,
is right.
Adil. So if anyone has questions for Adil, please line up at these microphones. We have time for one question. So yeah, go ahead.
All right.
How will you make sure that all these images are used for the good and not for the bad stuff?
How do you make sure with great power comes great responsibility, you said?
Exactly.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
deep fakes and all the things that
Yeah,
are going to happen, and we know that will happen. But how you stability AI
that
is
is important.
thinking?
Yeah, it's definitely an important question. I'm not going to answer it just because there's a lot to it and I don't have any time to answer it. But let's talk about that later. And also there was another panel about it. Yeah, safety responsibility is very important. How do we hit you up to get the collab? Just find me outside, I guess. Also, I'll post a link somewhere and Priya can post it to people.
Yes.
Thank you, folks.
So our next speaker is Raleigh Seth, Principal AI Product Manager at Microsoft. Please join me in welcoming Raleigh. Just working on the sound right now. But Raleigh, why don't you just go ahead and start talking a little bit?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Raleigh Seth. I'm a Principal AI Product Manager at Microsoft. One of my fun, interesting roles is using AI for creative applications in products like Microsoft Designer, Microsoft Copilot, and in the past, I've worked on product teams that Adil was talking about called PowerPoint. And there's a lot of fun stuff also happening, so Adil, we should chat. But in general, today what I'll be talking about is slightly different. I'll not be giving you demos of all the cool stuff that Designer and PowerPoint are doing, but mostly talking about, since I have 13 years of product experience in building AI and non-AI products, around my experience of how I've been using that for creativity and AI. So without much ado, but before I start that, I want a quick raise of hand of how many people know about Microsoft Copilot? How many people know about Microsoft Designer? Good, 3 people. Okay, and the most important question, how many of you have actually used one of these products? Good, so the ones that you have not raised, because I was in the networking session yesterday and people were saying, because I don't have license. The good news is I work on the consumer side, and if you go to the copilot.microsoft.com site, it's free. You can use all those features for fun and free. So with that note, let me play a quick video of the fun things our team shipped 2 weeks back at the Super Bowl this year.
Good morning.
Watch me.
Just watch me now. Just watch me now. I got a song for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. I got a song for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. Just watch me now.
So the TLDR as a product manager of this video was that you can actually, the word Copilot, someone asked the question in the last one of how can we make sure people are using in a safe way? The word Copilot has been used intentionally that as a Copilot, you as a user is the main driving seat and you're working with AI. And on the similar one, there is a quick video of some of the image editing capabilities we are bringing inside Copilot that we have recently launched and available for free for folks. So it's a very short video, but if you see, it's not just, people have been used to using prompts as just basic creation and chat box, but we are bringing inline creation that you can do all the things, editing, and create more fancy artifacts all within Copilot. But to the main topic that I wanted to talk to you about, why should we talk in product development, use creative AI even? Data, we have a lot of data, but the main one is there is a possibility that more than 25% productivity could increase if we start leveraging AI in product development. You guys are already into AI, so you would know this answer, but the main question comes in, how do I use that in product AI development? And as if someone is a mathematician, I wanted to take the example of creativity mathematical formula. You might think creativity also has a formula, yes, and that's what my talk is about in the next few minutes. I will be touching about creativity is a function of knowledge, imagination, and evaluation. So all three things as day-to-day working as a product manager, I use in AI application. So let's start with knowledge of how I use it. I have actually devised my own creativity metrics, AI creativity metrics, where every product that I work on, I have an axis of human known and human unknown, and similarly AI known and AI unknown. The fun thing in this metrics where I start exploring is the co-creation or co-pilot piece is the bottom left part of it, which says, how do I make sure that human AI doesn't know by itself all the things AI by itself cannot do? But when you blend the combination of AI and human, that's where all the crispiness, all the creativity comes into picture. And if I have to project that in the hype cycle, as a product manager, you guys have seen all the hype cycles. But the point I'm trying to say is all these co-creation innovations will start happening. So more before later, you should start thinking about that blend of the things. Another interesting thing about is while you think about knowledge is just thinking about your own domains, like what is trend, AI trend of the day? Anyone knows? What is today's AI trend of the day? Yeah, no, but it's actually AI news, particle.news if people are following. So it's about, you know about your domain, but where my bread and butter and I love is I start learning and gaining knowledge about other domains as an AI product manager. And to give an example with the specific creativity, in my last 1 year of AI product manager, the popular line I've heard the most is, let's create AI that feels magic. And then I start talking to people, it's like, do you know what magic is? He's like, yeah, you know that, magic is magic. So I literally started going and talking to magicians. Literally, I went on LinkedIn, started searching magician titles and talked to them. You might think, why I'm not sitting at the back end and just seeing AI, all the latest models and greatest. But an analogy I found, I have a big article if anyone is interested, but this is an example. In old times, there was a magic trick called dissolving views lantern, where they would put a lantern and all that magic image will transition. The version 1 of generation AI images were on the same page. That will give the mimic of the effect of the magic. So it's like, I talked to several of you yesterday, today. You guys are into human-computer interaction, but as product manager working in Copilot and Microsoft, I'm already thinking about magic interaction design across discipline. And I think it will evolve. By magic, I mean much more than what you see currently, which is an icon of sparkle. Whenever AI applications have to start, or the new ones, which is about, you will have a dice rolling, which is about fortune and magic too. But there's more to come. So tips for if you're into AI product manager and want to gain your knowledge is start creating custom GPTs and copilots. There are a lot of free ones available to know what things you can expand. Start taking inspiration from other fields and leverage multimodal AI. If you're not into just reading, I know Perplexity and other companies have started AI podcasts too. So start building as an AI product manager. Second topic, imagination, the second formula component. When I talk about imagination, people go into some complex fields. Like the point is little breakthroughs in creativity and imagination can yield a long way. I've created my own product management, generative product management lifecycle, and it's again taking the concept of co-creation that you combine together at each step of micro creations and micro innovation to start thinking on that terms. And why do we need to do that? Remember my AI creativity metrics? As humans, we are blind for 4 hours per day. That's a fact, because our eyes blink for 100 milliseconds, and if you calculate for the day, for that 4 hours, our brain started mapping, just projection mapping and doing all those weird things, and perception plays a core role. So as you're designing these, imagining these products, you might be thinking about presentation, UI, backend, but a lot of people don't think about perception. As an AI product manager, I talk to cognitive scientists, literally cognitive scientists of how people, what they're not saying when you do user studies. There are things that people don't say, but we have to figure it out. So that perception is another piece of just in terms of designing your products. And an example of imagination I would take is, we all know all these products with a lot of potential are still, over time, don't have the limit of 400 milliseconds to be called as super productive. They'll reach there soon. But when you're thinking about micro innovations, think of the loading screen that shows up while the image is generating or any content is generating, how you can tap into that and add more creativity. One of the approaches I like to think of for doing my innovation and imagination in this field is words first technique. Just think of what would be my world's first AI loading screen. That would be best. So I take a small thing, but add words first. It is a popular technique. You should try it out too. And even as GPT, create the words first and fill in the blanks. But the question comes when a lot of people say, if everyone is creating things which everyone has access to, it will, whatever I feel, create as a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. These are literal words of someone who tried to create an AI video recently. The fact is, the angle which comes differently is user-uploaded content. If you are a PowerPoint or any presentation user, 90% of the time I know you find an old file, change the date, title, and start changing, but less chances you'll start from scratch. So while people are talking about creator economy, I'm already thinking about remix economy as a product. So start thinking on those. So tips for imagination, bringing into the creativity is, ask GPT world's first questions. Leverage GPT-4v. I love GPT-4v because it can upload content, and that sets you more differentiated on all other content that you can personalize and scratch. Prompt templates, like I'm fully into prompt templates that you can use and share. Adobe has it, Microsoft has it, whichever product you use, but use those things. AI personalization is becoming big. On the third topic of evaluation, there are two sides of it. One of the evaluation after you do all the creativity is even understanding, does AI solution is the right answer or non-AI solution could work. In my experience so far, it has been a blend, so that either AI will not be able to solve the answer, non-AI will not be able to solve the answer, so we have to blend, mix of both. So you have to figure out how that blends together. And the second part of the evaluation is, ask GPT to ask you questions back. If you would have heard the Jamie's talk this morning from Microsoft Chief Scientist, she was also mentioning, there is point now that Copilot or GPTs will start asking you questions back. It is not to overburden you, but just to help you out. Use that as a product development person or product creator to innovate in that and leverage meta prompts. So the final point, if you would have seen my equation, all those mathematics geeks, there was a sub-coefficient called A, which is all about attitude. So have a positive attitude, because sometimes people, I see product, but I'm not that creative. You guys are creative based on if you use my equation. And I will leave you with the final thought. If you have to remember one thing from this talk, ask yourself, when was the last time you did something for the first time? That is the question I daily ask as a product manager. Thank you.
Hey. Our next speaker is Nicole Fitzgerald, co-founder and president of Alpaca AI. While she's setting up, while Raleigh was talking, and I was thinking, she was talking about magic, here when I'm watching everyone's faces, as everyone's demoing their work, everyone has this look as if they just saw a magic trick. As the picture of the cute cat shows up on the screen. So it was a really interesting take to view creativity and creating this art as magic. So thank you, Raleigh. Okay, I'll let Nicole take it away from here.
Do all these things, okay. One day I will have the budget to bring you guys a video, and one day I will have the foresight to bring you guys slides, but for now it's just me talking, and we're just gonna do a really casual interactive demo through some of the product. So I'm Nicole. I am, as Priya mentioned, one of the co-founders behind Alpaca ML. I've worked in ML research for a number of years now, mostly on the language modeling side and all the stuff that didn't work before language models came around. But at Alpaca ML, specifically, we work on building creative tools for artists. In particular, we're very focused on a particular subset of this population, what we call high intent users. In particular, we're interested in users that love, actually, maybe I'll dial back for a second. There's been a lot of talk about Copilot today. There were some great remarks just before me. I think one of the panelists earlier on in the day spoke to kind of like the merits of Copilot being a tool that is not just a generative tool, but is also an integrated tool. So something that belongs in the environment of the developer, that works alongside the developer in their workflow. And I think that's a very similar kind of approach that we're trying to take with Alpaca. So for artists, what does the workflow for an artist look like? To some extent, there's the kind of like high-level thinking, which translates into the text box element of the UI. But I think a lot of the artist workflow is really about sort of like, you know, how do I paint? How do I draw? How do I get down these like really kind of early ideas just through these basic sketches? And these guys, I think most people who work in industry are incredibly talented actually at this. So this is a quick sketch that was done by an artist named Jade. I think this probably took her about 2 minutes to do. And I think the kind of real challenge that artists face is not just like, how do I get this first idea down, but how do I actually translate it and sort of like render it and bring it up to that full fidelity so that I can show it off to you know, like a player of my video game or a creative director inside of my team. So in this case, we kind of take this potion bottle sketch and we'll render it as though it was like a 3D model that came from like Unreal Engine or something that's used in an asset as in a video game. Another fun example, this one's like a much more high fidelity version, but we can take even this kind of like pretty finished drawing and just add, like I said, that like little bit of like extra detail, whether it's like the lighting, the texturing, the rendering. I think one of the fun things about the tool is you can actually sort of control how much the model is going to deviate from your initial input. So this first example stayed pretty close. I think we can pull things further and further away, and we'll do like maybe one more example where we're actually gonna deviate quite a bit from that initial input sketch. Just move this over. One of the funny, like fun things that I like to do, because we're a company called Alpaca and this is like our logo. So we do like to have a bit of fun from time to time, is taking these like inputs and kind of experimenting with like, can I turn this into an alpaca? That's always the question, is like, will it be an alpaca? So if we type in here, bipedal alpaca, protector of the forest, we can actually also kind of tweak and translate and experiment with these kind of like broader, higher level. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong setting. That'll take it a little bit too far. But sticking a little bit closer to that initial image, we can also do some kind of like fun and quirky and experimental things. And there's one more thing I'll talk to you guys about, and this is something that, so let me just render this quickly, which is the magic trick you've already seen. This is something we actually haven't released yet, so you guys are the first people to see this live. This should feel exciting to you if that's not clear. Let me just bring this over to the other side. Is of course, I talked about workflow integrated, and I think a large part of our workflows, it's not just about getting from point A to point B, but it's really about that sort of like iterative, continually constructive part of the workflow. So not just like, again, how do you render that image, but how do you continually work on that image and bring in new ideas and try new things. So this is also the sketchiest part of the demo, not because it's new and experimental, but it's going to just require me to draw a little bit. So let's maybe think about what is like one edit or like one change that we want to make to this kind of guy that we have here. Maybe we'll get a hand. Okay, so we're gonna give him wings. So I can grab, I didn't actually get to demo a whole lot, like the kind of like different draw tools that we have inside here, but let's draw some like very quick, kind of like doodly wings on this guy. And we're just gonna grab, I think this will be the mask tool. That's just gonna tell the model in the back end that like the thing that we wanna change are these wings here. And then we'll just say, oops, sorry. Angel wings, comma. Sorry, I should have set this mic up a little better. Cool, and so now we have our same guy, but now with a set of angel wings. I think this has been really hard in the past. There's a lot of technology that kind of allows you to do this sort of like iterative stuff, but I think one of the fundamental problems is if you ever look closely at the demos, this is the trick. When you see people demo AI stuff, watch it in slow motion or watch it twice or something like that. There's usually a lot of stuff that kind of goes unmissed. But there's been a big problem with like the entirety of the image changing every time you add this new element into the picture. So I think like one of the fundamental problems we were trying to solve here is actually just how do you like iteratively change only the things that you want to change. So we'll go ahead, we'll add maybe like one more kind of quick little thing here. And this guy's floating in space right now, but maybe we'll put him in like a cozy garden sort of environment. So we'll just kind of like quickly scribble this in. I think the other thing I'll say is I just like quickly mask this for you guys is I think one of the beautiful things about what we're working on right now is it's actually something that's not just good for like these kind of like blotchy, scribbly drawings that I'm showing you, but is actually something that's quite skilled. Here, one second. Is actually quite good at working with like varying levels of detail and fidelity in the user input. So again, the best I can give you guys right now is the blotchy sort of like, like smudgy drawings. But I think from some of the examples that you would have seen earlier, this works just as well. If you were, again, a particular artist working in something like Procreate or Photoshop, or eventually like natively inside Alpaca, to kind of like really stay true to the kind of ideas that you put down on the canvas. So I'm just gonna erase this mask really quickly, and now we're at our final image. And I think that just about brings me to time, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to come up and ask.
Thank you, Nicole. That was awesome. It's so fun watching these demos. Our final speaker is Mikey Shulman, co-founder and CEO of Suno. Suno does audio generation, and Mikey is also a lecturer here at Sloan. I was playing around with Suno last night. You can basically give it, I'll let Mikey demo it, but it's a lot of fun to use, so I highly recommend.
Hey everyone, great to be here. We let people make music, and that's a lot of fun, so maybe we should all make a song together very quickly. Shout some stuff out. Mysterious. Ooh, I'm a bad speller. About what? About MIT and cats. That is definitely not a song that has been made before. I can almost guarantee it. And now, like everyone else, I'm gonna have to do some sort of song and dance to stall while this goes in the background. And I'll actually just let it go and not play with something else. But I think maybe just to differentiate us, this is not for creators. This is for everybody. This is not for professional musicians who have their own workflows. This is for my mom. So let's see what came out.
In the shadows of the city, a mystery unfolds where the ivy leaf meets the alleyways. Secrets untold, MIT whispers in the wind. Its tales unfurl as the tech cats dance in the moonlight. They rule this world.
Maybe let's just listen to the other very quickly.
Midnight hour,
differently mysterious. And then we might just decide, I want to remake that song in a totally different genre. Somebody help me out here. Metal. You know, I think the thing that's really cool here is to realize that there's quite a lot that is possible that we've just not thought about. And actually some of the most fun things are when we do things that are not genres that we think about right now. So maybe metal, reggae, funk, EDM. Someone sent me some really cool bossa nova EDM songs recently, which were great. By the way, sorry, I have no idea what it sounds like out there. Is the volume?
till the mysteries unfold.
I think this is actually amazing and kind of the best part of my job. This is a workflow that doesn't really exist right now about making music collaboratively in a room of 100 or so people. You know, I can tell you, I used to be an aspiring mediocre musician in New York. Now I'm a definitely bad musician, and I distinctly remember the first concert I played and getting probably $20 at the end of the night from the promoter and thinking like, that was criminal. I just had so much fun playing music with my friends. The audience had way less fun than we did, and somehow I end up with a $20 bill at the end of the night. And I think like making music with your friends is amazing. Making music yourself is also amazing, but I think it's like kind of the highest form and something that, you know, we don't typically have access to. We recently released a new model. People seem to like it enough that we have what we call the explore page or the trending page, and this is a way for people, you can click, after you make one of these songs, you can go and you can click public. It has a chance at ending up here. Don't worry about the new tab, that's for me only. And amazing stuff ends up on this thing. I will maybe play a couple of very small clips, or does somebody see something that they want to play? Which one is that? Oh, yeah.
Another day, another beat. The city wakes beneath my feet. Glass and bottles, cans and lids, they're all part of this gig I hid. A rattling rhythm in my bones, a different song with every stone. Some sea junk.
And I think what's amazing is that these are genres that have never been explored, topics that have never been explored, and it's because they're buried in the heads of everybody. I actually had one queued up that, I don't know, it does something for me. I don't know if it does something for everyone else. I don't speak Estonian. I guess you could call this something like inspired by a German lead, but I don't think that's quite right. I need to play it. This artist spent the time to do all of this stuff, do retakes and retakes and retakes, and end up with an art form that does not exist, and somehow was on our trending page for a while, so it doesn't only touch me, it touches a lot of people. I think this is amazing, and I think I have the coolest job in the world as a result. And so I think I have time for one question.
So much, Mikey. I actually think I'm going to invite all of our speakers to the stage. We're running low on time, but I do want to have one question in our roundtable discussions. Wow, that was awesome. That was super fun. I can't imagine a better set of people to talk about this topic of generative AI in the creative industry. So with the remaining time we have left, we'll kick off our roundtable discussion. So some of you touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to hear all of your opinion, and if we have time for you guys to bounce off each other too. How does AI fuel or enable human creativity? Anyone wants to kick it off? Go ahead.
I can kick it off. So one of the things I've been focusing a lot is AI first drafts, that it fuels creativity by not giving you the final answer probably with all these images, videos, audio, but you can start with a good draft and then you can iterate on it. So there's very good in terms of getting you the head start that Mikey was mentioning. It's for my mom, that my mom might not know all the tools. So this AI first draft is one of them. And the other one that I actively use is understanding human blind spot and helping there with the creativity. So those will be my two, if anyone wants to add.
Yeah, I can maybe jump on. So we think about this a lot, and we work with a lot of artists who also ask us the same questions. And I think I usually have sort of like 3 main points to kind of bring to the table. So the first is, I think for skilled creators or skilled storytellers, the scope and the ambition of the work that they are able to produce or that they are going to be able to produce is going to become much, much larger. And I think this is a great thing. I think there are so many people out there with wonderful stories that they want to tell. things that they want to create. And I think a lot of the time, resources and time are the kind of the bottlenecks on their ability to put those things out. And so I think that's one. Two, and people talk about these first 2 points as sort of like a ceiling and a floor argument about AI. So one is it raises the ceiling on what's possible, and two is it actually lowers the floor, the barrier to entry. So more people are able to create more things, and I think this is largely an excellent thing, especially kind of like coming from a space where the emphasis has been largely on the consumption of things that are created. I think more people having more creative outlets is a truly wonderful thing. I also think there's a huge and surprising amount of appetite for that. I think something like Midjourney has kind of like really paved the way just for like the sheer appetite that people have to like put their hands on something and make something. And I think the third thing is kind of like this like external or like additional axis to that argument is, you know, both ceiling, floor, but also this idea of like outwards and extension. I think there's new types of things that we're going to be able to create and like new types of mediums that we're going to be able to operate on. I can't tell you what those things look like or what they will look like, but I think it's a largely exciting problem for people who are interested in creating sort of at the frontier of technology.
So thank you.
I really love that idea of the ceiling and the floor. But I get people sometimes asking, like, you know, is it cheating if you're using AI to create? But if you rewind 10 years ago, was it 15 years ago, Photoshop came out and people were like, well, that's cheating as well. And somebody created a camera once upon a time and people thought that was cheating. I actually like to think that the creative workflow, if it were, could be broken down into two fundamental aspects. The creative spark and the operational. You have something in your mind that's distinctly human that you use to kind of fuel that thing that you're going to create. And AI, like all technology, operates on the operational level. It doesn't have a mind yet, and it is going to translate what you think about into something. I think that you see that a lot with the text generation, image generation. A lot of people showed you some of this stuff. Yeah, I think we're in a different world coming pretty soon. A lot of people can use their creative spark, and we're going to see a lot more beautiful art from that.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was talking to James earlier Nicole, during your demo. Like, I'm not a good artist, but even I could use some of these tools. So I definitely agree it'll expand accessibility. And I'm thinking of Jamie Teven's opening keynote. She mentioned like, oh, we've been using AI to think about how we can make our lives more efficient and how we can make what we already do more efficient. But she's looking forward to people thinking about how we can use AI to do new things and to create new things. And I think that's exactly what you guys are doing. So I'll really quickly, we have like a few minutes for one last question. How will AI generated art change how we experience art moving forward? If anyone wants to just a few responses on that.
One quick thing, which is you'll start to engage with the art more. I hope people start to create as well as consume simultaneously, and art becomes less about being a zombie, taking in all of those TikTok videos and creating something as well. The remix button.
Maybe I'll say we look a lot at the video game industry, which is like 50 times bigger than the music industry. And it is because video games are rich and active and interactive and multiplayer. And so I think it's like a little silly or zero sum to just think it's all of the current workflows except all the art is AI, and not to think like, no, this is actually extremely positive sum, and there's just, we're all looking for the other 98% of the, well, I actually don't know how big the image or video industry is, but for me, in music, we're looking for the other 98% of the ways people should do music.
Kelly, did you have?
I think in a lot of, okay, it does work. I think in a lot of ways, like the question maybe doesn't change. I think it's sort of a perennial question of like, what is art? What makes something art? What's good art? And so I think this is just sort of another example of the latest technology that's pushing that boundary of what is art. But I'm also optimistic that I think AI will give us sort of a general higher appreciation of art. We think a lot about the analog with everyone having mobile phones and everyone having a camera in their hands. Like once that ability becomes more accessible, I think people start to realize like the actual work that goes into creating a good image. I think it raises sort of everyone's sort of visual literacy. I think if you looked at your like Instagram page from 10 years ago, you were probably like way worse at editing photos than you are now. And so I think I'm hopeful that the more that creating is democratized and the more that it's in everyone's hands, it kind of just raises the value of that art.
Oh, wow, I could talk to you guys about this for hours, but unfortunately we are at time. Thank you so much for demoing your work and for coming to speak with us. With that, I'll turn it over to Ashwin for our next segment.